what's going on? Want to say shalom to everybody. Um, now y'all see the title, Ebony and Ivory, oil and water don't mix, right? So what we're gonna do, we're gonna get into a brief history lesson. Because if you've been following along for the last 2 months or so, we've been getting a better understanding of this book and understanding that this is our history book. It is not dealing with religion. Religion was placed upon us by the oppressor, but because they stole our records and they created religion off of it. But as we reading along, we can see that this is more so dealing with history of a group of people and how they interact with the rest of the world. So, get into a little history of these people we call oppressors. And like a lot of times we think this stuff just pick up about 500 years ago or so, but we've been dealing with these people for quite a long time. So, without further ado, we're gonna get right into it. Like I said, this is a little brief history lesson. Just gonna hit on a few key points and a few things throughout history, whatever. Right. So now, like I said, before I start, just give all praises to the Most High and His Son Yahushua, who the world ignorantly called Jesus Christ. And so yeah, just get it in, right? We're gonna start off though first with Genesis 25 and 21. So and it reads, it's dealing with Isaac and Rebecca, and so which would be our forefathers, our ancestors, our great 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 grandparents, right? 10 times over. So yeah, this 25 and 21, and it says, and Isaac entreated of the Lord for his wife because she was barren, and and the and the Yahweh was entreated of him, and Rebecca his wife conceived. So Isaac basically asked God to make his woman pregnant, right? So she can have children. And it says, and the children struggled together within her. And she said, if this be so, why am I thus? Meaning, if this is a blessing from God for her to be pregnant and have these children, why is she having so much complications with her pregnancy? Why is her, she having all these pains in her stomach while she's pregnant, right? So, and she went to inquire of the Lord, right? So she wanted to know what was going on. And the Lord said unto her, two nations are in thy womb. Two manner of people shall be separated by thy bowels. So so basically, she's having these two male children, and these two male children will grow, and they will become two separate nations of people. Two different mannerisms, meaning they're not going to have the same, uh, you know, uh, same likes and dislikes. They're going to be very different in various ways. They're going to be, this opposite of each other, right? They're going to be two different manners of people, and they're going to be grow into these two separate nations, you know, of the for themselves. So it says, and the children struggled together within her, and she said, if it be so, why am dust? And she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said unto her, two nations are in thy womb, two manner of people, meaning they got two different personalities. Two manner of people shall be separated uh, from thy bowels. Meaning, once she can give birth to these children, soon they come out of her womb, they're going to be separated, from birth. They're not going to be together. They're not going to be how normal brothers and siblings be, how they grow to be close and they have that closeness with each other. They're going to be separate, right? There's always going to be some friction with them whenever they come together, like oil and water. So it says be separated from thy bowels, and one people shall be stronger than the other. And the elder is the key point. The elder should serve the younger, right? So it says one people gonna be stronger than the other, and the elder should serve the younger. And we know who's stronger when it comes to physical, mental, spiritual. We know who's stronger. You know, we are, and even them themselves would tell you that they couldn't go through half the stuff that we went through and survive it. Because remember, these people at one point in time almost died off of for the simple fact that they couldn't grow potatoes. I mean, so and they almost lost the whole race of people because they couldn't grow potatoes. So we know who's the stronger and who's the weaker. But the key point is it says, and it says the elder shall serve the younger. So it says, so when her days were to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, they were twins. So like I said, these was twins in her womb, you know. And the first came out red, hairy, like a hairy garment, right? So and you know when you're having twins, the first one that comes out is not usually, but is the elder, right? So this first child that came out red, and we know the so-called oppressor, the European, when their babies are born, they're born pink red. You know, pink is red. You know, but you know this. So it's describing Esau, the so-called European man, when he first hit the scene. So and he came out red, right, like a hairy garment all over, because we know that for the most part these people are hairy. Then, if you're familiar with the South, we know that in down south they call these people rednecks, right? So it says, and the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they call his name Esau. Now Esau in Hebrew means wasted away, because when he was born he didn't have no melanin, he didn't have no pigment in his skin, you know. So it's like Esau, you know, he wasted, you know, that's what it means. He wasted, or he wasted away, you know. And so you know that's what, you know, how he came out, right? And he's the elder. And it says, and after that his brother came out, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And you notice they didn't describe the appearance of Jacob, because Jacob looked like everyone else, you know, that was around, because we know that the original people on this planet were melanated people. We were all variations of dark skinned people. But once Esau hit the scene, that's when we get the so-called European look, you know. And so that's why he wasn't described like his brother. And after that, his brother came out and took hold of Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she buried them. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, because we know these people like to hunt. You know, it's from all the way back from their forefather Esau. It's in their DNA to be that hunter. That's why they would lay in the woods with bear urine. They'll take bear urine and spear it all over them and lay in the woods to, you know, to catch something. You know, they're very cunning hunters. They put satellites in the sky to watch people all the time. You know, they do these different inventions that they have, you know, you know, to feed their natural hunter spirit that they got. They go and hunt, go into Africa and other countries and hunt animals for fun, for sport. Not because they're getting chased by a lion or something. They just want to go and kill the lion. That's what they do, right? So it says, and the boys grew, and Esau became a cunning hunter, a man of the field. Meaning he was out in nature doing all that little nature stuff like Crocodile Dundee. He was out there wilding with the animals, you know. And us being plain simple, we don't do all of that. We just like to chill, maybe throw a few barbecues and just relax, you know. We don't get into all that extra extreme stuff. And Jacob was a plain man, dwelling in tents, right? So, like I said, so right there we can see the differentiation between these two people. in their characteristics, right? And so that's move along. Let's jump to 27 real quick, and we go to 41. So like I said, we just we ain't gonna touch on everything. We're just gonna jump around, but we gonna it's gonna all make sense. It says now these people, yeah. Hey, we still okay, all right, cause this internet thing be tripping, man. All right, okay, we still pimping. All right, okay, yeah, cause the feed I'm trying to cut off on me real quick. I had to double check it. So it says, and by the sword thou shalt live, and thy brother it shall come to pass, uh, and thou shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass, when thou hast dominion, thou shalt break his yoke from thy neck. And that's what we living in the times now, where Esau has broken the yoke off of his neck, and now he's in control of things. And when you get into Ezra, it tells you that he's going to be ruling in during the in during the last days, right? You know, and we'll probably get into that. And so it says he should break the yoke off their neck, right? And boom, boom, boom. And it says, and it also says what it says. And he lived by the sword, and Esau. Let me jump up, and it says, jump up to 39 real quick. And it says, and Isaac his father answered him and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling should be the fatness of the earth, and the dew above heaven, and by the sword thou shalt live. So you think about that. Everywhere this man lives at, or call home, he killed and murdered those people in that land, right? So that's why it says he should live by the sword. So he got all his blessings, and and the rulership of the earth, as we know it now, through the sword, through war and conquest. That was his blessing, to be able to be a warrior and take things by force, right? So then it says, and Esau hated Jacob, because of the blessing wherein his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, meaning he said, and he'd been thinking this, pondering this, in the days of mourning my father are at hand, then I shall slay my brother. So he, from this point in history, right here, from this point in time, he made up his mind that he's going to kill the Israelites. He's going to kill the Black, Hispanic, and Native American man. He's going to oppress them. He's going to do all the things that's in his power that he can do to destroy us, right? And it says, and Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing, wherewith his father had blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, in the days of the mourning of my father are at hand, then I will slay my brother Jacob, the Black, Hispanic, and Native American. That's why so much friction with us whenever we come together. Um, and these words Esau, uh, and these words of Esau, her elder son, were told to Rebecca, meaning, like, he was so mad, he even told his mama, like, look, I'm gonna kill my brother. As soon as our dad died, y'all passed away. It's on. You know what I'm saying? He says, and these were told to Rebekah, and she sent and called Jacob her son, and said unto him, behold, thy brother Esau uh, is touching thee, do comfort himself, pursue to kill thee. Meaning, like, man, your brother is real mad at you, and he want to kill you, right? Now, therefore, my son, obey my voice, and arise and flee into Lebanon, uh, uh, and my brother to Haran. So she sent them to his uncle's house to live for a while, right? Because Esau wanted to kill him. Then it says, until thy brother anger turn away from thee, and he forget that which thou hast done to him, and he never forgot. That's why thousands of years later, his descendants, his children, it still had that disdain, that hatred towards us. Because of the blessing that we receive. It's not because of your skin color. I mean, because you can have a child like Blake Griffin, got a blue-eyed, blonde-haired child because he, was married with a white woman, but that child is still an Israelite. So it's not about the skin color. It's about your bloodline. You know, and and that's why he hates us. It's not because the way we look. It's because who we are. And and it says, until thy brother anger turn from thee, and he forget which thou hast done to him, then I will send and fetch thee from hence. Why would I be deprived also of you both in one day? Meaning she didn't want to see her children fight. Like most parents don't want to see their kids fight, right? So now we get we're getting a little gist of where all the friction and the animosity came from between us. Because Esau was jealous because we got the blessing and he didn't receive the blessing, even though technically we got the same blessing. Only difference is he's going to receive the blessing through his conquest and war. He's going to have to kill and murder to attain these things. But us, we just got to just chill back, keep the commandments of the Lord, and keep the faith, and just live our life, and then all of these things is going to come to us. But him, on the other hand, he has to murder and kill and be a murderer his whole life to obtain all these things. So he was kind of upset about all that, even though he's a natural killer anyway. So now let's get to Amos, right? Let's start at 9 and 9. So like I said, we just jumping around, getting just a few little touching on a few little points. So it says, I'm gonna read from 9 to 12. For lo, I will command, and I will sift the house of Israel among all nations. Talking about the Israelites, he's gonna scatter us throughout all these different nations, all these different countries throughout the world, right? For lo, I will command, and I will sift the house of Israel among all the nations, like corn is sifted in the sheaf. Yet not the least of grain shall fall upon the earth. Meaning, he's not going to lose track of where he put us at. He knows exactly where his people at. They talk about the lost 10 tribes, or the 10 tribes, or the lost 12 tribes of Israel. But the Most High God Yahweh, He knows exactly where we at. And through prophecy and archaeology, we can find out exactly where we at. And through history, we can find out exactly who we are and where we at. And all the sinners of my people shall die by the sword, uh, which say that the evil should not overtake or prevent us. So you got some of our people that's just thinking they just so well off, or they so blessed in the way they in their livings, or they so secure that they don't think any harm can come to them. But the but the Most High is saying that not to be not to have that type of attitude, because it says the sinners of my people shall die by the sword, which say evil should not overtake or prevent us. Because you got some people that live in wickedly too, and they think that they're not going to get judged for the things that they do. In that day I will rise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof, and I will raise up his ruins, and I will build it as the days of old. Meaning he's going to restore Israel. He's going to put us back in our rightful position of rulership. Because, like I said, right now, in this dispensation of time, Esau is running the world. And like I said, we can get Ezra where it talk about Esau is the end of the world and Jacob is the beginning of the world that follows. Meaning in the last days, at the end of the world, Esau's going to be running things, and we see that these people are in control. You know, and not to for understanding and clarity, the end of the world don't mean this whole planet gonna get blown up and it ain't gonna be no more people, no life. It just means the end of society, an end of a certain age, an end of a certain government rulership. That's what it's talking about. Then a new system of rulership is going to take over, which would be us, the Israelites, for clarity. Because I know a lot of people get scared when they think about the end of the world, but it's the end of the world is talking about cosmos, society, age, um, government. That's what it's talking about when you see it like that, and that they may possess the remnant of Edom. So in that day, when it's our turn to take over, we're gonna possess the remnants of Edom like they possess us during slavery. That's why a lot of us got European names. Not a lot of us, all of us got European names for the most part. Um, and it says, and they shall possess the remnant of Edom, and all of the heathens which are called by my name, uh, and all of the heathen which are called by my name, said the Lord. Uh, uh, do is this, right? So so let's go to my one of my favorite books. If you know, you know, Obadiah. So we're gonna read like 1 2 all the way down to 11, right? So this is Obadiah now, and I tell people to read Obadiah because Obadiah is like one of the shortest books in the Bible, and if you can read it in about 5 minutes, and this book is talking about God's plan to eradicate these people off the planet, you know, and so and Pastor would never read this book to anybody because he cannot teach you that God loves everybody and read you this book at the same time because you will see that God doesn't love everybody. So we gotta have that understanding, and this is a prophet, meaning that this is a prophecy that happened, and it's gonna, you know, and things is gonna have to come about, and you got some Christian historians will say, "Oh, this happened already," but there's no proof that this happened. You cannot prove that this happened because this is a end time prophecy. So it says, this is the vision of Obadiah, thus said the Lord God concerning Edom. So Edom, we know, is the so-called European, and we can prove that. We're going to prove that as we go along. That's why I say it's a build-up, and we're just touching on a few things to explain who these people are. Uh, the vision of Obadiah, thus said the Lord God concerning Edom. And we heard a rumor from Yahweh, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen, meaning he sent these spiritual angels among these people to put a certain spirit on these heathen nations to turn against Esau. That's why you see a lot of these countries rising up against America and so forth, right? And it says, ambassador has been sent among the heathen. Arise ye and let us rise up against her in battle. So this is where World War III is going to come into play because a lot of these countries going to, start feeling themselves. They're going to feel like, you know what, we can take America. They got guns, we got guns too. God damn it, just do it, right? So they're going to start feeling themselves. So it says, arise ye and arise ye and let us rise up against her in battle. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathens, and thou art greatly despised. So among all these other nations, they are, like the least populated, have the least population, right? And then not only that, a lot of these countries hate these so-called Europeans because of the stuff that they have done, all the trickery, the robbery, how they go into different places and jack up the whole country and steal things, and so a lot of these countries against them, and we're gonna see like how all that play out in these last days. And it says, behold, I have made thee small among the heathen, and thou art greatly despised. and the pride of thy heart has deceived thee. Thou hast dwelled in the cliffs of the rocks, and whose habitation is high. So, well, like I said, it's talking about they caveman nature, because we know these people to be cavemen. We know where they used to live at. We know they used to dwell in the mountains and the caves and stuff. And it's telling you right here that says, "Whose pride in thy heart have deceived thee, thou dwell in the cliffs of the rocks." So we know these, for the most part, these people are mountain type people. They like to live in the mountains, these caves and stuff like that. That's why in the modern times they build all these skyscrapers, these tall buildings, because it reminds them of living in those high mountains, that they so accustomed to living in, you know. And so it says, "And thy pride has deceived thee. Thou dwell in cliffs and rocks, whose habitation is high," because they like to live in these high, elevated places. That's why that's why every city got these high skyscrapers all over the place. And it says, "Whose habitation is high, and that said in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground?" Because that's the pride of these people, because they don't think anybody can touch them. They don't think nobody can take them down from the height that they don't climb up to. They so prideful. And it tells you pride comes before destruction. It says, "And thou exalted thyself as the eagle." So what's American symbol? The eagle. What's on the back of your dollar bill? The eagle. You know, what's on a little flag at the little Capitol buildings? The eagle. It says, "Thou exalted thyself as the eagle." Then when you go into the history of these people, whether they're Germans, whether they're Spanish, whether they're British, whether they're American, any type of Russian, any type of European people you can think of, they always use the eagle as their symbol. Because the eagle is an apex predator. And we just read in Genesis how their blessing is to be hunters. And we know how these people hunt for fun. And what do an eagle do? An eagle sits up high, on a mountain or a tree, whatever he can find, and he looks down at the prey and he comes and scoops down and take what he wants. That's what they do. So that's why they liken themselves to the eagle, you know? So, and it says, "And thou exalted thyself as the eagle, and thou hast set thy nest among the stars." Talking about their little satellites and they space stations that they put up in the sky so they can further watch people. All their little so-called surveillance systems that they got, the NSA stuff that they got watching everybody. It says they had set they nest among the stars. Hence I will bring thee down, said Yahweh. As a thief comes to thee, if a robber by night, how art thou not cut off? Meaning, like, you people steal everything, and everybody know that y'all robbers and thieves. How are y'all not being cut off? Why is nobody stopping y'all from doing these things? Because everybody know that y'all is robbers. Everybody know when y'all come to a place, y'all come to rob, kill, and steal. So even Yahweh, Most High God, is saying, like, why is this going on? Why is nobody stopping these people from doing this? So it's saying, so it says, "If a thief come to thee, if robbers by night, how art thou cut off? Why would they have stolen until they had enough?" Talking about saying, like, would they keep stealing until they have enough? No, they would never have enough. That's why they will steal until they can't steal anymore. Till they, like how we was going over last week about how the Spanish ships was taking so much gold that they were sinking in the water. When they came over to Puerto Rico and, you know, in Cuba and all these other little islands in the Caribbean and stuff like that, they were stealing so much gold that these people were sinking in the ships. Their ships were sinking. That's historical facts. We know this. So no, they won't stop stealing. They are greedy unto death. You know, and they have the nerve to make us out like we the thieves. We steal because we have to. They steal for sport. We steal because we're hungry. They steal because it's there and they see it. It's a difference. It says, "If a thief come to thee, if robbers by night, how art thou cut off? Would they not have stolen until they had enough? If gatherers come to thee, would they not leave some grapes? So it's saying like y'all niggas even take every like because like when you gathering grapes off the vine, or even if you got grapes in your refrigerator, and you might pull the grapes off. Sometimes some few grapes might fall down to the bottom of the bag, right? So God is saying that these people will take the grapes off the vine, then even the grapes that fall to the ground, they're not leaving nothing. They're gonna steal it all. So this is God. This is what God telling you about these people. This is how we know who these people are, because through prophecy, uh, history, and archaeology tell us who these people are. And not only that, we know we live with these people. We see what they do. We know how they get down. They are master thieves. It says, "How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things stored up?" Meaning, like people haven't figured these people out yet. That they come to rob, steal, and kill. All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee to the border. Even the men, even the men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee. So, they got their little NATO and their EU, but after a while, their NATO and their EU, a lot of those members in that NATO and EU is going to turn against them because they're going to realize this war against Russia and China is futile. They're losing out, and they can't box with these people. So they're going to have to turn on America and join Russia. You see that with Germany. You see that with France. Happening. Uh, um, what's the other country? Not Sweden. Uh, this is one of those European countries they have, but they're Muslim by faith. I can't think of the country right now, but they Muslim by faith. So, so yeah, they're gonna end up turning on America. So it's saying all these countries that you confederate with, they're gonna come at your border. They're coming at your head. So now this is like I said. So this is how we know this is end time prophecy because this haven't happened yet. It says all the men that uh, of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee, meaning their people that they got in the EU and their NATO, was at peace with thee, have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. Uh, they, they that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is no understanding in him. Meaning, like they ain't trying to hear it no more. And we can read about this in Revelation where it says that the beast shall hate the whore. And America is that whore that's riding the beast because America is the head, leader of the beast system. And so it says the beast shall hate the whore. And this is a precursor because Obadiah is seeing the same vision that John the Revelator saw. He just giving a little more detail, or not, or breaking it down a little different, in his vision. And in it says, the men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is no understanding in him. Meaning they're not trying to hear none of that peace talk that America trying to get them to chill with. Like, no, we ain't, no. Y'all done jacked us up so much. I got our gas prices high, food, everything. Our civilians is starving. They trying to kill us. So if to keep our people from killing us, we're gonna have to blow you up. So they're gonna join with Russia when it's all said and done. So that's a spoiler alert. And it says and shall I not in that day, says Yahweh, even destroy the wise man out of Edom and the understanding out of the mount of Esau. Meaning all their little scientists, their mighty men, they little smart, intelligent people, their philosophers, their men of war. He's going to destroy them and take their understanding. Meaning he's going to make them look dumb. He's going to take their whole understanding from them. Where they're not gonna know what to do in that day. We can see that happening now. Cause look who's the president. We got Biden, who's like damn near got dementia. He don't know what's going on. He just reading off a teleprompter. He can barely do that. You know what I'm saying? So you already see this prophecy coming through where he's taking the understanding from their wise men. Where we looking at these people that we used to think was once were great. Like, man, these people, they don't know what's going on, right? And we see that. And it says, where are we at? And it says, and thy mighty men of Teman shall be dismayed, and to the end of to the end that everyone of Mount Esau may be cut off by slaughter. So this is Yahweh telling, through the prophet Obadiah that he's going to kill these people through slaughter. He's going to, eradicate them. It says, cut off by slaughter for the violence against thy brother Jacob. So this is why he's doing it. It's not for no reason. It's because their violence against thy brother Jacob. Because we read in Genesis 25 and 25 that we were brothers. We were twins. We came out the same womb, Rebecca. But it also told you that it's going to be two manners of different, two manners of people. We're going to be two manners, and we're going to grow into be two different nations, and we're going to be basically ebony and ivory, oil and water. We're not going to mix. So, and it says, for thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. How long is forever? Forever is forever, right? So he says, thou shalt be cut off forever, meaning the next, when this day happened, the next time you see one of these people will be in a museum. Like how we look at how they got these exhibits of the Neanderthal type people, which is them, got the exhibit of the Neanderthal people. We're going to be looking at them the same way. Because they're going to be cut off. They're not going to be here anymore in that day. Not because I said it, because the Most High God said it. And it says, in that day thou stoodest on the other side in that day that the strangers carry away captive of thy forces. Talking about when we got taken into slavery through these different nations, not necessarily the slavery us being here in America, because he's gonna get them for that too, but for the Babylonian captivity that they stood by and allowed, and then they cheered it on and helped the Babylonians capture the Assyrians, all that stuff, right? When you get into the history, in that day thou stood on the other side. In that day that the strangers carried away captive his forces, and the foreigners entered into his gates, and cast lots upon Jerusalem. So that's what we see now. They casting lots. That's why you have a Palestinian state. That's why you have the so-called Muslims over there, and the so-called people with the curly hair and the small hats over there. They cast lots. They took our land and they split it up amongst these different people, right? And it says, so we reading history. We're not reading nothing about no religion. You don't hear me saying ha and huh and ha. How would those pastors be doing now? I can't even do that because you know what I'm talking about. We reading history. This is not no religious thing. This thing is our history book, our real history book. And we wonder why we can't find anything about our history because it's in the Bible. But we've been taught that this is a white man's book. And we don't understand that this is our book. And it don't belong to nobody else but us. No, anybody else has this book doesn't have no business having it if they're not an Israelite. Just like you get some mail at your house, I can't take your mail and open it up and read it and think that it belonged to me. Number one, I'll go to jail because that's a felony. And number two, that's just ignorant. That's wrong because it doesn't have my name on it. Same thing with this Bible. This Bible only belongs from Genesis all the way to Revelation. It's only talking about Israel. Prove me wrong. $1,000. Prove me wrong. It's only talking about Israel. So you cannot, like I said, you can't go to China and pick up their books and start reading it like, oh, this is talking about everybody. You can't go to any nation that has their own culture and pick up their books and read it and say, oh, this is talking about everybody. So why do they do that with the Bible? It is a concentrated effort to throw us off. And it's done on purpose because no, they don't do that with no other book. In that day that thou stood on the other side, in that day that the strangers carried away captives and his forces and foreigners entered into his gates and cast lots upon Jerusalem. Even thou was as one of them. So yeah, they were one of them. That's why I said you got the small hats with the curly hairs over there, the Muslims over there, the Palestinians over there, which two out of three is the same people. If you want to be real about it, so and that's what's going on. And so just get Ezekiel 36. So we're just getting a little history of how this whole friction and what they have done to us over the years. It's not just within the last 500 years. This stuff been going on off and on for uh, eons of time. Because, like I said, two nations and thy womb should be separated. Two manner of different people. They should be separated at your bowels. Soon we came out from birth. We were meant to be apart. That's why we can't live. That's why it's been so much hell for us here in America, because we're here with them. Anytime we come together with them, it's always friction, and that's just how the Lord set it up. And so let's go to Ezekiel 36 and 5. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen, and against all Idumea. Idumea is a Latin way, Greek way of saying Esau, all right, or Edomites or Edom, right? It's a Edom, really, and it says against all Idumea, which have appointed my land into their possession. So who's over there right now with the curly hair and the small hats? It says, which appointed my land in their possession, with the joy of their heart and with uh, despiteful minds to cast out for a prey. So, and they prey on us. They prey on our ignorance, because we don't like to read. So they prey on us because they have the military might, the government system to do so. They prey, and that's how they get down. And let's go to 35 real quick. Let's go up to chapter 35. Uh, we're going to go to 5 all the way down to 9. It says, because thou hast a perpetual hatred, meaning a everlasting hatred. That's why we can't get along with these people. That's why there's always turmoil, because they have a perpetual hatred for us. That's why no matter how many generations come, it's still some type of level of disdain and hatred that we got to face. We're still seeing, public lynchings through the police shootings. That's why they say, well, every 28 hours an unarmed black person get killed by the police. Then, all these different uh, mechanisms that they have to kill us in other ways that they, perform these little horrendous acts against us, right? It says, because thou hast a perpetual hatred and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by force of the sword, because we remember in Genesis it said their blessings will be the sword. That's how they're going to get everything that they got through the sword, through war and conquest. Because remember I was telling you that our blessings are similar to Esau, but only difference is Esau is going to attain all of these things through war and conquest with the sword. But God is going to naturally give it to us. You know, it's just not prophecy just have to come out and be fulfilled. Because there's things that the prophets that wrote about and said that has to happen before we can obtain that glory that we rightfully supposed to have. All we supposed to do is just play our part by keeping the commandments and keeping the faith and enduring to the end while all of this playing out. And it says, because thou had perpetual hatred and shed the blood of the children of Israel by force of the sword in the time of the calamity, in the time that their iniquity was had an end. Therefore, as I live, said the Yahweh power, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Since thou hast not hated blood, meaning the white men don't care, they will kill anything. They don't hate blood. They don't be like, no, they don't say, just be peaceful with these people. Just try to have a diplomatic solution. No, they don't do that. If you disagree with them, they're bombing you. They're coming in with their military and they robbing you. They're coming in with their little marine forces and dismantling your government. They're sending in their CIA agents to break up things. They're not with the peace. They're not with that at all. That's not how they roll. That. And it says, therefore therefore as I live, said the Yahweh power, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee, since thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. Talking about, so he's going to cause them to now reap all the stuff that they've been. What it said, you reap what you sow. So now all the little stuff that they've been uh, putting on the earth, now they're gonna have to suffer through that. Now they're gonna have to be killed by the sword. Because they went around the whole world raping, robbing, and murdering. So now they're gonna have to go through all of that. And it says, and that's where I make Mount Seir the most desolate, because Mount Seir is talking about the Edomites, the so-called Europeans. Will make them desolate and cut off from him and cut off from it him that passes out and him that returns. So he's gonna, like I said, we read in Obadiah, he's gonna destroy them. And I will fill his mountains with his slain men, and in his hills and his valleys, and all the rivers shall they be shall they fall that were slain with the sword. So he's talking about he's going to destroy their whole nation, because we know that mountains and hills in the Bible is talking about nations. For the most part. So he's going to destroy their whole nation. And I will make thee a perpetual desolation. Perpetual means forever, right? It says, and I will make thee a perpetual desolation, and thy city shall not return, and ye shall know that I am the Yahweh, which is the Most High God's name in Hebrew. All right. So let's get let's get a little more history context, right? We're gonna go to the First Maccabees. We're gonna go to 10 and 15. First Maccabees 10 and 15, and we're gonna read down to 28, right? To get you some understanding, right? Because we learn in history here about how these people got down and the judgment that God is going to place on these people for the way they got down, right, throughout the years. So we know that this is not something that just happened. They've been doing this for thousands of years, off and on. So it says, now this is how we know we're dealing with history now. I'm pretty sure we all know who Alexander the Great is, right? So, but here it's called it says, now the King Alexander, which would be in school how we learned Alexander the Great. They call him Alexander the Great. But it says, now when King Alexander had heard what promises Demetrius had sent unto Jonathan. Now Jonathan was like an Israelite. He's like a general. He was like a general of the army for Israel during that time. It says, when also or more like a general leader. He was in a leadership position. When also it was told to him of the battles and the noble acts which he and his brethren had done, in the pains that they had endured. So Alexander is learning about how Jonathan was getting down in battle. Like he had his people and all. Demetrius and him was trying to get at him. So but he's seeing how they was defending themselves, because like I was telling somebody, these people they don't respect cowards and traitors, but they respect warriors. That's why they made a movie about Geronimo, and so and because they respect their warriors. They might kill you, and they might want to kill you still because they're got that hunter mentality, but they're gonna respect you. So Alexander saw how our ancestor Jonathan was getting down on the battlefield, so he had respect for him. He wanted to be cool with him, you know. So but let's see how it all played out. So it says, and now the king, when King Alexander had heard the promises that Demetrius had sent unto Jonathan, and when it also was told of him the battles and the noble acts which he and his brethren had done, and the pains that they had endured, he said, "Shall we find such another man?" Meaning, like, dang, this guy is a warrior like that. You know, he been, like, man, let's try to be cool with him. Is anybody else like that? He's a worthy opponent. Let's be cool with him. He said, "Shall we find such another man? Now, before we will make him our friend and confederate." So now they want to join up with us because Alexander the Great, like, all right, these guys is holding it down. They're not falling, they're not folding, they fighting. So let's try to be cool with these people, right? You know. So, like I said, this is history. So we're not reading about no fairy tale here. Alexander the Great was a real person, all right? And it says, upon this he wrote a letter and sent it unto him according to these words, saying, King Alexander to his brother. So he's trying to be sweet with him, trying to be cool with him. Calling him his brother. It says, uh, King Alexander to his brother Jonathan sending greetings, meaning like, hey, what's up? What's going on with y'all, right? You know how they always try to act like they cool with you. This older white guy I worked with trying to be cool with me, talking about some NC Hammer, because they always want to show you that they know about our culture, so they want to bring up something that they think they know about. They want to bring up some damn MC Hammer. Like, nigga, that was like in the 90s. Alright? Anywho, upon this he wrote a letter and sent it unto him according to these words. King Alexander to his brother Jonathan, sending greetings. We have heard of thee that thou art a man of great power, and meet to our to be our friend. So he's talking about you want to be friends with him. Uh, it says, wherefore now this day we are uh, obtained thee to be a high, ordained thee to be a high priest of thy nation, and shall be called the king's friend, and whereof he sent him a purple robe and a crown of gold, and required thee to take a part and keep friendship with us. So he sent them gifts and gave them some royal clothes to wear and gave them a crown and stuff, trying to prop them up as, because Alexander was in control of the known world at this time. But we were still trying to fight and keep these people off of us. So now he like, all right, well, I'm gonna bring you into my fold. You try to, give him a crown and give him some clothes to wear, to make them feel like, we on the same team, like how they do, how they try to prop you up and make you think that one of them, but just to stab you in the back and the end like they always do, right? Because they're hunters by nature. And it says, where before now this day we ordained you to be a high priest, and he allowing them to, he's like, look, you can do your thing, whatever, right? To be a high priest of thy nation, and to be called the king's friend, and whereof he sent him a purple robe and a crown of gold, and required thee to take our part and keep friendship with us. And so in the 7th month of the 160th year, at the Feast of Tabernacles, Jonathan put on the holy robe and gathered together his forces. So yeah, he took the robe, but then he gathered together his forces. He put his army together, right? And provided much armor, meaning he told him, like how Marlo told him in the wire, hey, tell the boys to tool up. So he told me, like, yeah, look, I'll take the gold, I'll take this shit, I'll take that. But But he telling this guy, look, get your guns ready. You know what I'm saying? Just suit up on these people, right? So, because Jonathan wasn't no fool, like how some of us are. We get fooled because of their so-called kindness, and we think that they are our friends now, not knowing that they wait with a knife in their back, like how they always do, like how they did with the Native Americans, pretending like they was lost and hungry just to kill everybody. 80 million to be exact. Um, Therefore, when Demetrius heard, he was very sorry and said, "What have we done that Alexander had prevented us of making empathy with these Jews to strengthen himself?" So, so Demetrius, so now they're getting a split. So Demetrius was like, dang, who was fighting with these people. So now Alexander trying to be cool with him, like, man, now I'm stuck in the middle because, I'm fighting with these dudes. And so now what should I do? Right? So it says that we have done, what have we done? That Alexander had prevented us to make empathy with the Jews to strengthen himself. I also will write them words of encouragement uh, and promise them uh, delights and gifts that I may have their aid. So now, so Demetrius like, all right, well, so that's what Alexander on. I'm gonna do the same thing. He sent unto them therefore this effect. King Darius unto the people of the Jews sending greetings, whereas he had kept covenants with us and continued our friendship, not joining ourselves with our enemy, we heard thereof and are glad. Uh, Wherefore now continue ye still to be faithful unto us, and we will well recompense you for the things ye do in our behalf. So talking about, man, join with us, be cool with us, and we'll pay you back for all the stuff that you've been doing. All the good stuff that you do. Um, and when and when you and when you grant you and will grant you immunities and give you rewards. So that's their promises. That's how they got Shaq and Charles Barkley and all these other celebrities to turn on Kyrie Irving. That's how they got all these other celebrities to try to turn on anybody else that speak out against them. You know they promised them these gifts and these different positions of nobility and all that stuff, and we always fall for it and go against our own people all the time. So this is an old trick. This is what they've been doing for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. This ain't nothing new. Putting us against each other and promising us different things. So just jump down to 46, because I'm not going to read the whole account, but you can jump down to 46, right? So like I said, we just touch on a few things. Let's jump down to 46. And now Jonathan and the people heard these words, and they gave no credit. So they didn't do what how most of us do in this case, in this fold to these people. Like, oh, well, maybe Master is not so bad. Let's go try to be cool with him now. But it says, now Jonathan and the people heard these words, and they gave no credit unto them, nor received them, because they remembered the great evil that he had done in Israel. So they didn't forget all the bullshit that these people put them through. So they didn't fall for these gifts and all this nobility and this status that they was trying to give to them, like how our people so often do. So our ancestors had uh, pride, they had sense, they had understanding that my people first type attitude, and they didn't fall for the little trickery of these people and how they got down. We got to be more like Jonathan, and we not. We more like Charles Barkley. It says, and when Jonathan and the people heard these words, they gave no credit to them, nor received them, because they remembered the great evil. Because remember, we read earlier when Alexander sent them stuff. He took it, but then he also told his army to suit up at the same time. So now he looking like, so he gave no credit unto them and received them, because they remembered the great evil that he had done in Israel. that he had done to Israel, for he had afflicted them very sore. Right? So we knew not to trust these people back then. Right? So let's go to let's go up a few chapters. Let's go to Maccabees 5 and 3. You know, cause we reading about the great dagger squad, our assassins of the time, Sakari, what they used to call them back in those days. And it says, and when Judah fought against the children of Esau, right? We already know who Esau is because we know what Alexander was. Alexander was a white man, right? Esau. So that's how you see how it folds back together. How we see that Esau is the white man, all right? And these because Alexander is a white man, right? It says, and Judas fought against the children of Esau, and in Idumea, uh, in Abratanes, because at Abertane, because they besieged Gael, and he gave them a great overthrow and abated their courage and took their spoils. Meaning we whooped them so bad that we not only did we beat them, we beat them and mistreat them. You know what I'm saying? We went in their pockets after we got them. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it mean by they took their spoils. Meaning we robbed them. After we beat them, we ransacked them and took what we want from them. You know, and and that's how we got down. Let's go to we're still proving what we're talking about. Let's go to chapter 1. We're gonna jump up to chapter 1. We're moving backwards here. You know, jump up to chapter 1. Maccabees 1:1, and we're gonna read down to 9, right? So, like I said, we're getting an understanding of how these people is and what they have done and what we've been through with these people throughout the annals of time, and how our ancestors used to react to these people. I mean, given we had some few Uncle Toms back then too, you know, but then we also had some warriors that stood up against these people. So we don't have to necessarily look at the civil rights movement for our warriors. We have warriors throughout history that we can also look at, like Judas of Maccabees. Not the Judas you read about in the New Testament, because that was a common name amongst Israel. So we had a Judas of Maccabees, part of the dagger squad, the deadly assassins, the Sakari. You know what I'm saying? These were mighty men, warriors, and we're gonna probably get into that since you know the feast of dedication is coming up. Some of us are celebrating the feast of dedication now, and so it says after it happened after Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chisholm and smitten Darius, the king of the Persians, uh, the Persians and the Medes, that he reigned instead of the first over Greece. So Alexander was the man over Greece. He was the who I like to call the white Jesus, the real white Jesus, the one that put white people on the map. Because before that, they were living in caves. They were still living in caves and filthy people, but he brought them credibility, Alexander. Because white people would tell you themselves in their history that basically, and they know that their history is so jacked up, they would tell you that they don't acknowledge no history before Alexander the Great. So they would make you think that civilization started with the Greeks and the Romans when you go to their schools and learn from them. They don't acknowledge their ancestor Esau and how they was sleeping in caves and making animal noises like how they do when they get drunk. You know, be going ow, all the little the noise that the white people make when they get drunk. So it's that's so they don't acknowledge their history before Alexander the Great. But we're gonna bring it up. Um, and reigned Stede first over Greece. So he brought the Greek state into being and made many wars uh, and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth because he took over the known planet, right? The known world. And when through this is history, right? We're not reading no fairy tale thing, right? So what did they be talking about in church, right? So we need to understand what this book is actually talking about. Because they don't read you the Bible in the church. They give you a nice song and dance, just enough for you can get your money. You know, it says, and they went to the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, because that's what Alexander did, because that's what they do. They steal, and so much so that the earth was quiet before him, meaning nobody rose up against Alexander because they wasn't strong enough to fight against his army. The earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up, meaning he got prideful because he started realizing, look, this is easy. I'm knocking nations down with ease. Ain't nobody can stand up against me. He already took out the Persians and the Medes, you know. So he's like, man, ain't nobody who can stand up against me now, you know. So it says, and he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries to him. And after these things he felt sick and perceived that he should die. So we know history. He got sick, right? So he didn't die in war. He died of a sickness. And after these things he felt sick and perceived that he should die. Where before he called his servants, as such were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth, meaning his friends that he got down with, his generals, the warriors that he went around fighting with, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. So he divided his kingdom among his different generals and stuff that he had with him while he was still alive. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then he died. So he had a 12-year run, doing this thing, causing hell on earth for 12 years. And his servants bear rule, every one of them in his place. So now you got his different four top generals, because he split the kingdom up into four, parts. So now you got his four generals that take over the after him. So it says his servants bear rule, every one of them in his place. And after his death, they put crowns upon themselves. So not only did they take over, they made themselves kings over their respected area of the world that they were presiding over. And after his death, they put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them in them many years. Now this is the point. This is how we know that the white man is the devil. And this is why they took these books out the Bible. Because it says this. And evils, not good, but evils were multiplied on the earth. So it says, and evils was multiplied on the earth. So when these people took over, Alexander and his people took over, evil began to multiply on the earth. Right? So we know when these people are in rulership, evil multiplies. That's why the earth is in the condition that it's in now. That's why it's so much destruction and war and hell and famine and death and disease all over the place where you go, because these people are in rulership. All right. Now let's get that in the book of Job. So it tells you evil multiplied on the earth when these people came in power. That's why we see what we see now, because they are in power again. And it says in the book of Job 9:24, the earth is given unto the hand of the wicked, meaning these wicked people is running the earth right now. This is, and we see this. Because look how the earth is being ran. Because it tells you when the wicked is in control, the earth mourns. But when the righteous are in control, the earth is at peace. And we're not at peace right now. So we know that these people are the wicked. And the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges. Meaning he took the people of this book and covered their faces, meaning he whitewashed them. He whitewashed all the images during the Renaissance era and all that stuff when they came into their fullness of their power. You know, uh, and that's why you got Charleston Heston in movies, Jen Cazizzo, and all these people, Gerard Butler, you know, and all these people playing in these movies, you know, because he covered the faces of the judges, right? And the judges is Israel, because we're the ones that's supposed to judge the world. Because it tells you that we're going to judge the world. It says the saints should judge the world, and then they teach you that you're not supposed to judge. You're supposed to judge righteously. But we'll get into that. The earth is given into the hands of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? So God is saying, if these people are not the wicked, then who is it then? Show me another person as wicked as them. Just like we read in Obadiah, where it says that, how is these people not cut off? Like, why? They do so much stealing, they will not stop stealing. So we reading about their characteristics and who these people are, and how they've been getting down. All right, let's get a few more. Let's go to uh, let's go to Job 30 and 1. I'm gonna read down to 9, right? So it says, but now this is Job 30. I'm gonna read down to 9. It says, uh, but now they that are younger than me, uh, that are younger than I, have me in derision. Who's meaning that these people is oppressing us. Whose fathers I have would not disdain to sit with the flocks of my dogs. Let me read it right. But now they that are younger than me have me in derision, whose fathers I have uh, disdained, and to have set with my dogs of my flock. Meaning Job knew how wicked these people was and disgusting these people was. He's like, I wouldn't allow them to sleep where I keep my dogs at. Like wherever I keep my dogs at, I won't even let them sleep there. This is what Job is saying. All right. And if you've been to church before, you know what they say about Job. Job was a patient man, right? They call him a patient man. But this patient man said he would not allow these people to even sleep where he keep his dogs at. Whereto might the strength of their hands profit me, in whom old age was perished. For want and famine they were in solitary. So it's giving a little history of these people, right? Before Alexander, did what he did. It says that's why I said they were in caves before Alexander. And it says for and then after that they went back into the caves during their dark ages. You know, and so they forever in the caves. It says for famine and solitary they fleed into the wilderness in former desolate and waste, right? Who cut up meadows and bushes, meaning they used to just, they was doing bad. We forced them out to the wilderness, to the mountains, where they was just eating shit off of bushes, whatever they can grab, mushrooms, whatever they can grab and just eat it, right? It says they cut up meadows and bushes and juniper roots for meat, because that's how jacked up they was. They were driven they were driven forth from among men. Because these were disgusting people. We have to get rid of them time after time. So it said they was driven forth among men. They cried after them as a thief. You mean we chased them away like how you would chase a thief when he, like on Boys in the Hood when dudes try to steal Doughboy chain and try to run off and they all chased after him. So we chase after these people like you'll chase after a thief to get them away from us. And we're gonna have to do that again. So. And they were driven forth from among men, and they cried after them as a thief. Who to dwell in cliffs of the valleys, because like I said, they cavemen, the cave beasts, naturally. To dwell in the cliffs of the valleys, and caves of the earth and the rocks. That's where their homeland is. That's where they most feel comfortable, in these caves. And who dwell in the cliffs and the caves of the of the earth and in the rocks. Among the bushes they brave. So when you look that word up, brave, because I have to look the word up, brave. It means to make animal noises. That's why when they get drunk, they always ah woo woo woo, yahoo. You know the noise that they make. All these little crazy animalistic noises that they make. One of my friends uh, got a video on his page where it showed these people, and I like to call it a natural state. And one of them is just sitting back. This whole conversation just animal noises. You'll think the man is a damn owl mixed with a dog. The noises that he's making. And it says, among the bushes they brave. Because like I said, that word brave means to make animal noises. And that's what they do, especially now, since they got a little more sense to themselves. They only do it when they get drunk or whatever. They have a few beers. They be making all those little wild noises and stuff. We all seen it. So I'm not lying. Uh, under the nettles, they gather together. Under the nettles, they gather together. So yeah, they be in them little dark caves. They don't know what they touching on, rubbing on the leg. They don't care if it's a woman leg or a man leg. They get down like that. They don't care. It says they gathered together, and they were children of fools. So this is why I always get mad when we want to follow these people, because these people are the dumber than rocks. And the guy, not because I said so. I mean, I can, but not because I said so, but the Bible says so. God says so. He says these people are children of fools. Yeah, children of base men, meaning out of all the people that God created, if we had a totem pole, out of all the people that God created, they're at the bottom when it comes to capacity of mentalness, anything you can think of. They're at the bottom. So it's like it's almost disrespect to have these people running. It is disrespect. It ain't almost. It is disrespect to have these people ruling over us, because these people are naturally animals with a suit. There's no difference. You take a monkey and put him in a suit. They try to be cool, like they take a monkey and put him in a. The Russians, they used to take monkeys and send them to space. That's all they doing with these people. That's what these people is. Monkeys that's been sent to space. Because it says they were children of fools, children of base men. They were valor of the earth. Meaning these people is the worst, disgusting, filthy people. Just have a conversation with one of them, and you can see how their mind works as they talking to you. Listen to the type of style of jokes they like to tell. You know, it's always some type of you know filthiness type joke that they want to tell. You know, or just listen to some. Just pay attention to how they talk sometimes, and you can see how they come across. And they try to act like they so this and that, but just recognize the filthiness in their conversation, their way of being, of everything. They're valid of the earth. So they were children of fools, yeah, children of base men. They were valor of the earth. And now I, their song, and I am their byword. Yeah, so we are the ones that they make fun of, and they call us niggas and specks, wetbacks, and all these different names they come up with to call us porch monkeys, coons, all that stuff that they come up with to make fun of us. But the Bible is telling you who these people are. God is telling you that these people are children of fools. They're animalistic in nature, and they have the audacity, not only the audacity, but the caucasity to want to make fun of us and say and speak ill about us. And we'd be like, all right, okay, whatever, woo woo. Not understanding that these people are the worst. Not because I said it, because the Bible said it. This is what we're reading here. Because we went through we went through the history of Esau. We proving to it, like we showing like how God feel about these people. And let's get we're gonna hammer it home because some of y'all might not be convinced. Let's get go back to Genesis, go to 36 and 1. It says, now these are the generations of Esau, who is Edom, right? And if you remember, we read in previous verses that Edom is Idomia, right? And we read that Esau came out red with no pigment, like how these people are, like when how their babies are born red all over. All right, so we wrapping this up and we explaining who these people are. It says these are the generations of Esau, who is Edom. So Esau is Edom. So whenever you read the Bible, you see Edom is talking about these so-called Europeans because it's the one and the same. It's just like you say America and Americans. All right, same thing. All right. So then let's go down to 8. It says, thus dwelt Esau in Mount Seir. Esau is Edom. Once again. So letting you know that Esau dwelt in Mount Seir, which where the caves is. You can Google Petra, and see how they live over there in the area of Petra, which I am convinced that when you see the outside of the entrance of the caves, I don't believe they built that shit, but hey, whatever. But that's where they lived at. And so it tells you that Esau is Edom. And like I said, when we was reading about the Greeks and all that stuff, Idomia, that is a Latin way of saying Edom. So we know that the Greeks are white. So then Esau have to be white. Then we know that they babies come out pink red. So I'm telling you, and this was for the people that don't believe that white people are Esau or God don't have a disdain for these people. So I'm showing you, you know, the Bible says otherwise. And for those that think that God loves everybody, I'm showing you that the Bible says otherwise. And we got to get out of our feelings and emotions when it comes to serving Yahweh. I mean, because don't think, it's not a few of those people that I'm cool. I mean, yeah, I'm cool with a few of them. But I also know what the Bible says about them. So I'm not fooled and tricked and wrapped up in my emotions because my affinity for certain people. Because I know exactly how God feels about them. And I know that it tells you to never trust thy enemy. And I know that God set them up to be our enemy. And there's nothing I can do. It's not, no matter how cool I think I am with this person or whatever, it's nothing that I can do compared to what the Most High God has set this whole game to be up. So I have to go off of history, not my emotions. All right? And that's what we all have to do. I'm not telling you to hate these people. I'm just laying out the facts according to the Bible. Because like I said, we all got a few of those people that we cool with. But we just got to recognize who these people are, and what they were set up to be to us. Because it says, two nations are in thy womb, they shall be separated at birth. Two manners of different people. And we are opposite, oil and water. All right? It doesn't mix. And every time we do come together, it's always friction. All right? And it tells you, just like how, iron rusted, so are they ways. You get a piece of iron, after a while, over time, that iron is going to start rusting after a while. You can't do nothing about it. Pretty soon, that iron is going to rust away. And that's how these people are. They might be cool. They might be uh, beneficial at a time. But then it's going to come that time where you can't count on them. Because then their rust is going to show. Like how the Bible says. And we got to be willing to believe what the Most High God says versus what our emotions say. Because God don't care about your emotions. He care about your obedience. So I'm going to end my rambling before I go on a whole little another tantrum about these people. Because I can talk about them all day. So with that being said, I'm going to say shalom. And hopefully we got a little edification, understanding this history of our people and how we connect to the rest of the world and how much of warriors our ancestors was and the bravery how they was fighting against Alexander and and the others, and how we didn't fall for their trickeries, even though a few of us did, but how we didn't fall for the gifts and all that stuff. Like our brother Jonathan was like, man, I'll take all that stuff, but we still gonna get our army ready, you know. So once we, understand how our ancestors got down, and we don't, like I said, we don't have to go just to the civil rights movement to see the bravery of our people. We got warriors and bravery is shown all through our history when we read this book right here. But we have to understand that when we read this book, we're reading about ourselves and none else. This is not a universal book. Just like any other culture of people, it's not universal to everybody else. So we have to get out of that Eurocentric mind of thinking that this book is for everybody. Think about, when you think about this book, think about FUBU. For us, by us. That's what this book is. And if you've been following along for the last 2 months or so, we have been proving that. So with that being said, I'm gonna say shalom and peace and all that cool stuff. All right.